Good evening. It's an honor to be here tonight. Well, I tell you what, you guys ready to go down the rabbit hole? Let's do it. Oh, man, let's do it. Look at that. My hair turned blue when I got out here. Bruised blue. So much psilocybin. Actually, I changed the lecture tonight. We're just going to do large-scale cultivation of cubensis tonight. Why not? Yeah, and you got to love for the fun and profit. It's always a good book title. I actually did that at Britt knows, a lecture at Clemson University, and I pulled this slide up right in front of the college students. And they're like, I'm paying attention now. Listen, I mean, every day I wake up, if we gaze deep into nature, we'll find the solution for everything. How many believe in that here in this room? You've got to believe it. You've got to. Especially after a few grams. But, traveling around, and I'm telling stories tonight. It's an easy lecture. I'm just going to tell stories about my journey, which could be your journey. But walking through the woods, it's just spectacular. What you can find out there. And I've just been really lucky to have parents and friends, and we're all family tonight. You know that. We are a mushroom cult together. We are family. Bonded for life. You come once, you're going to come again, Was that too sexual or what? I don't know. Did I cross a line? All right. I'll outdo that. Don't worry. It's all about perspective, isn't it? This is a lion's mane, pom-pom, just a beautiful mushroom full of nerve growth factors. How many of you had the mushroom beer this weekend, huh? Right? How many of you smuggled it in? Okay, just set one right over here for me. But, someone who could not make it this year was Olga. I really wish she could have made it, but she's, we were really a good team, with Mushroom Mountain. That's her. As soon as I met her, the pickup line was, I would never, ever accept someone calling me a mushroom expert. Ever. Except if I was using it as a pickup line. Because as soon as I met Olga one night, and she goes, well, what do you do? And I was like, well, I'm a mushroom expert. And she goes, really? And when you can just say, Google it, that shit works, buddy. And I got proof because there's Heidi, There's Heidi. Gary, man, I tell you what, he has not left us. He's not left us. He is alive and well, and every time he came into town, he would stay at our house. And little Heidi, and Olga, he would stay in our room. We'd wake up every morning and make morel, quiches for him. And he was like, man, I'm going to give you my adoption papers, Gary had an incredible sense of humor. This is him behind my house. Look at him. I had cordyceps mushrooms fruiting behind my house. I did not put them there, right? And here they are, gripping onto the branches. And there's Gary. You could see him in his smile, absolutely in wonder, how did these get behind your house again, Years ago, all right, my history was a military one. Lived over in the Middle East. That's me camel racing at 8 years old. I know I lost my sponsor, so I had to come back. Here's my parents over here on the Masada overlooking the Dead Sea. Met with Russian families, Swedish families. It was just an amazing experience. The reason I'm telling you this story is because the world traveling has not stopped, and there's a problem in the world. There's definitely an issues in the world. There's me at the Great Pyramids of Giza, right there with my mom in the background. There you have Osiris. There's the 3 pyramids of Giza there. And then I come back to the United States, changed, right? A different American. I've seen other cultures, lived through a bombing blast. I come back and look at the soccer team name that I joined. Did you see that? Does anybody? Isn't that a little weird? I'm just telling you, this shit goes way back. And that's me right here And I was a runt. In a freshman in high school, I weighed 79 pounds. And my roommate, Sanchez, we were all talking about wrestling stories. You know, I wanted to be a soccer player, football player, and the wrestling team was like, oh, you're perfect, you know. But my dad was an Air Force colonel, wanted me, I had Air Force scholarships for wrestling into the Citadel, the Air Force Academy, and I did not turn in my applications. Colonel Cotter was pissed. And then, you know, I said, hey, Dad, I got really good news. I've joined a band. I'm a lead singer in a band. And I decided to grow mushrooms instead. Wasn't a lot of support in the Cotter camp for a few years. You know, I was traveling around with my equipment, lab equipment, and he's like, you know, you should get a real job. Well, things have changed. You know, he's one of our leading supporters now. And then I met Olga down in Florida while I was in a band, met her out, and I've only known Olga 1 week, right? 1 week we were out mushroom hunting. We weren't even dating, and I took this picture, and look at her. The way she's looking at that mushroom, and the way she's touching it. I mean, that's bullshit. I mean, back off, man. She's mine. But, you know, little Heidi here, she's out collecting now. She's 5. She couldn't make it because of school coming up next week, but she's out collecting mushrooms. And when she couldn't even talk, she can point to mushrooms and tell which ones were deadly, which ones were the morels, and which ones were the chanterelles. Late one night, I stay up with Heidi, and Olga's like, you know, don't stay up too late and don't show her anything too scary. So we're watching Silence of the Lambs. And, you know, I'm not thinking I'm going to get a Parenthood Award for this, but Silence of the Lambs. And you know that scene where they're like, you know, put the lotion in the basket. Now, I did not show Heidi the movie, okay? Come on. But we're out one day, and Heidi's putting mushrooms in the basket, and I'm just like, put the mushrooms in the basket. Put the mushrooms in the basket. Like that. And we were out at a grocery store later in South Carolina, and Heidi's like, put the mushrooms in the basket. The look of horror. It's like we're homeschooling her, you know what I'm saying? There she is. Check her out. I think that, so I might have audio here, but she's just too damn cute. Let me see that.
Chanterelles. Is that one of your favorite? Oh. Apparently.
She's going to need that stare when she turns 16. But this is us just a couple of weeks ago. We're out collecting. If you've never been to the Carolinas, it's one of the most fungal diverse in North America. Look at this. We loaded. That's Olga's mom. And we've got 60 pounds of chanterelles, and there's 40 pounds of Lactarius volimus in the back of our car. Unbelievable. Do you want to know where that is? Do you want to know where the spot is? Too bad. But anyway, Olga and I started Mushroom Mountain in a 4x6 walk-in closet. 4x6 walk-in closet, you know, laminar, open flame. What could go wrong? Lysol and shit like that. But now, you know, we moved to South Carolina, and it's a wonderful place, and that's how we wake up. That's what's sitting on our sign. So if you come down to the southeast, stop in and say hello, and come around on the Mushroom Trail. Welcome to Mycotopia, right? So where did the Mushroom Mountain logo come from? Triangular, 3 stars aligned like the 3 pyramids of Giza, water flowing underground, a big-ass Psilocybe cubensis pops up in the middle. I drew that in 2 hours. Yeah, with colored pencils. But a little bit about our company, and I want to move on because there's a lot of things we do. We study mushrooms, and I've been growing mushrooms for 26 years, legally for 24. And we've been doing a lot. Math majors. Well, you know, you come in, and now from that 4x6 walk-in closet, Olga and I have just purchased 50,000 square feet of warehouse space to become a mushroom campus, right? This is something that we want to do. We want to increase the education, build classrooms, and increase the online platform, international university about what can we do with fungi. That's what I think about every time I wake up is what can we do, right? So Olga and I invested about $500,000 in a lab, and then lately we've been dividing up the company into different compartments. And lately, in the last 2 weeks, this is my garage. Where's Tim? Where's Tim Erdman? Yeah, this is my garage, man. This is my garage. What you got over there? Just a couple hundred solar panels? I met with the designers of the Falcon rocket, and this is real exciting. As a community, we should celebrate Mushroom Mountain sent spawn up into space. It's at the space station right now. All right, they're doing some really cool experiments up there. Yeah, man. And Olga, every now and then Olga says, you should just go. You know, and I get a lot of calls. A lot of people send us mushrooms, you know, doing unusual things. This popped out of a lady's mulch. Does anybody know what this might be? Well, this old lady calls me and she goes, you know, I don't know how to tell you this. You know, because I'm going to do the Southern accent, right, Britt? I don't know how to tell you this, but it looks like somebody's done buried a dog upside down in the mulch. And I was like, ma'am, I know exactly what you've got. You are dealing with the dog penis stinkhorn. She goes, oh my, is it edible? Oh yeah. Only in the egg state, ma'am. There's subliminal shit all throughout tonight, don't worry. All right. I just want to put a quick plug in. This was an original part of the show tonight, but a year and a half ago, this is Pollyanna McIntosh. She's one of the actresses on The Walking Dead. She called me up, and she goes, Trad, I want to grow stinkhorns. I'm like, really? She goes, I have a movie coming out, and I want this witch-like woman walking through the woods, and wherever her foot raises up in the forest, I want stinkhorns to erupt from the forest floor. What do you think of that, huh? What would you say if you were me? All right, I was like, I can do it. Click. Shit. I have no idea how to do it. People turned in the eggs, and then we actually grew out a bunch of these. They filmed it last year, and the movie just came out a couple weeks ago. So we filmed all these time-lapse pictures of these Phallus ravenellii. We set up a huge scene at Mushroom Mountain, and we have all these phallic-like stinkhorns popping out of our farm. But anyway, check it out. The movie's called Darlin'. It is kind of like The Exorcist. It's really scary, but check out the trailer tonight, right before you go to bed. I didn't know I was going to be a part of that, you know. But it's cool that we got biological consultants from the mycological community interested in putting something like that into a movie. All right, so we go out, we hunt mushrooms a lot. I'm very interested in metabolites, some of the things that mushrooms make, including octanol. Mushrooms create heat, carbon dioxide, and they sweat just like an animal, right? What else does that? Humans, animals, fire. Think about that, right? Mushrooms are territorial. They like to conquer land masses. They like to mine their resources until they're gone. And then they find a new place to live and start all over again. Let's think about that. Different organisms are attracted to fungi, like these strangulating nematocidal fungi. These are pretty cool. A lot of mushrooms do this. We've donated a couple strains to Clemson, and they found out that shaggy mane does it. maitake, shiitake, and a couple other strains, but they actually strangle nematodes to death. And when I show these pictures to kids, I do children's shows. I know it's shocking, isn't it? You know, and there's always this little girl in the front. She raises her hand and she goes, "Mister, can that happen to people?" And I'm like, "Only if you don't clean your room." But you know, this is what it's all about. Coming out here every single year, it's building on the knowledge and the generations. The first year I came out here was 1996. I was standing in line, getting my copy of psilocybin mushrooms of the world signed by Paul. And then later on, I get invited back, and I have a book out, and you might have a book come out. You know, it's just, it's an amazing thing. And maybe Heidi will have a book come out. You know? Don't you like that concrete statue that I sit on? That's a real mushroom. If you've never seen this before, Mycorrhizae titans, that is a 5-gallon bucket. That's not like a little Barbie prop. All right, someone shipped this to me several years ago, and what I really like about my job is whenever I come home, I'm on the road a lot, and there's packages waiting for me in the shipping department, and some of them have return addresses and some don't. and I'm always giving the ones that don't. They're like, "Hey, Hannah, can you open this for me?" You know, it sound a little funny. But this one came in, and the UPS guy comes walking in with the box at an angle. It's huge. It's a huge box. And it's dripping brown juice. It's like, just drip, bloop, bloop, bloop. And he sets it down on the counter, and he backs away slowly. And he just stands there, and I'm like, "Do I need to sign for it?" And he's like, "Nope." He goes, "I just want to know what the hell's in there." We opened it up. It's the teacher shipped it in dry ice, so everything died. It was like, killed it. But a little piece of the mushroom survived, so we actually cloned this one. We're presuming it's edible. I don't know. I've given it to the neighbors. They're still alive and well. But look at this. It's a mushroom that stood above ground for 2 months, and you could actually sit on it. It would hold your weight. So next year, we're going to plant these in a circle around our fire pit. And then we're going to roast mushrooms around the fire. This is just from 2 days ago. Got up here with a mushroom stone and the Amanita muscaria, just absolutely gorgeous. And, you know, I've learned how to hunt mushrooms from Gary. The first mushroom foray I ever went on, was with Gary Linkoff. Ever, right? I was an amateur. I went out by myself. I don't know how I survived. I had field guides. There was hardly any internet. And then I found Gary up at the Asheville Mushroom Club, and I was following him around the woods, you know, and he's just like finding a destroying angel. You know, I found a destroying angel. He's like, "How do you like to eat that one?" I'm like, "I like this guy. He's cool." I was like, "I don't cook them. I just eat them raw." He goes, "Me too." He just like disappears into the fog. You know, that's just the way it is. Scary. You know, but I get calls all the time. I do toxicology calls, and I got a call about the Amanita muscaria one night. It was about 1 a.m. My phone's ringing off the hook, and this guy's like, from Virginia. He goes, "Oh, man, thank God you picked up." I'm like, "Really? This is going to be an interesting call, isn't it?" He goes, "I just ate Amanita muscaria a couple hours ago. I'm vomiting. I'm sweating. The room is breathing." And he goes, this is the funniest thing. He goes, "And my cat won't stop staring at me." Shit. And I was like, "Calm down." I was like, "What kind of cat do you have?" And he goes, "No." He goes, I said, "That's what cats do." All right? They stare. All right? He goes, "No, man, you don't get it." He goes, "When I lock eyes with him, he's uploading information." And he goes, "I understand, but it's like he's brainwashing me." And I said, "That's what cats do." I'm like, hey, man, drink some water, turn CNN off, and put the cat in the other room for a little bit, you know? Drink some water. And then he's like, how long is this going to last? And I'm like, forever. Click. Another thing I like to talk about is molds and these different entomopathogens. These are really cool. I don't know if anybody's been talking about these this weekend, but I really like the fact that we could potentially replace the chemical pesticides that are on the shelves, that are going off the shelves. What do you guys think about that? I mean, I just think it's about time that we take this technology forward. And there's fungi out there. I found some mummified grasshoppers last year right up on the plain, right out here. But wouldn't it be nice? I mean, different things, target-specific fungi for these different insects. I couldn't think of any rodents, you know. So he's be like, Somebody's like, do you hear a drone outside? Sounds like a very large mosquito flying around. But listen, up in my area, cordyceps are out there. The first time I collected a cordyceps, it was a life-changing experience. I wish it upon you. Come to the Southeast and find an infected bug. Man, it is cool. It is the coolest damn thing ever. I mean, to find an infected bug like this, Cordyceps militaris, this is the one that was in the beer, by the way, you know, for oxygen and sexual potentiation. I find these bugs all the time. It's really like when I'm walking through the woods, I'm not a lot of fun to go mushroom hunting with anymore because I'm creeping along and I spend about a half an hour on every log looking for these little tiny fungi. Look at that. Look at this one. This one's by Daniel Winkler. This is right behind my house. This one's pretty cool. If you don't know about this Ophiocordyceps, this one, unilateralis is what we're calling it. This one's right behind my house. It positions itself, it mummifies, it infects the insect, and then it climbs up a tree, and then it melts the jaw muscles of the ant, and then a mushroom comes popping out the back of its brain, straight down, directly over the pheromone-laden highway that the rest of the ants are using. Holy crap, right? I mean, I don't know how that slide got in there. This was right up at Mountain Village earlier today. Yeah, it's got a grip on him. It's got a grip. I mean, and Olga, we find these all the time. You just gotta kind of relax your eyes and scan around. Olga found this scale insect with these little horns growing out of it. You know, this could be really good for the ornamental industry. Finding target-specific fungi to replace chemical pesticides that are draining into our well water and our well water, making us all sick, right? I think we need a paradigm shift. We need to replace these things. So we're out here collecting fungi like this. Look at this one. This one's coming right out of the neck of that wasp. Everybody feel your neck right now? Do it. Do it. Feel that little, push on that little space right there until it doesn't feel good. Imagine a mushroom coming out of there tonight. Now, the back of your head. Slide your hand down between your shoulder blades. Do it. Trust me, you're going to find something. And slide. Do you feel a little bump between your shoulder blades? Was that there before you came to the festival? I don't know. Your homework is to measure it. I mean, cicada nymphs, this was one. Brett, I don't know if you've seen this one. Todd Elliott told me this hasn't been photographed that many times. I found this in Charleston at Mepkin Abbey down on the coast out of a cicada nymph. And just by chance, I was picking a mushroom right next to my hand. This little thread was coming out of a log, and there it was, right? Wanting to be found. Mushrooms are stalking you. And then the first cordyceps I ever found, this one, the length of your eyelash, this was the beautiful one. This is the one that kind of changed my whole life here. This one's the length of your eyelash. I went up and look at that. I dug it up, and there's a beautiful black carpenter ant. Beautiful. Just absolutely. She had two mushrooms growing right out of her neck, right above her thorax. And it was the size of a hornet. So I sent it to Harvard. I sent it to Dr. David Hughes, who's now at Penn State. And he goes, where did you find that? We haven't seen that in the herbarium or any lectures in any of the literature since 1907. And I found it on a mushroom hunt right above our farm in an old growth forest. You know, the jack and the pulpits were this tall. The trillium was 2 to 3 feet tall. Gorgeous, right? And so here I was. I walked in there and I found that in 5 minutes. And then I took it, I cloned it, and then I captured some more black carpenter ants, and sure enough, it was the pathogen. So I'm out in the backyard one day, and this is had about a beer or two, watering plants, and I'm like, hey, Olga, I got a great idea. Let's make fire ant farms in the house. And Olga's like, no. How about no? I was like, come on, And she goes, Jesus, all right, are they going to get out? And she goes, they're not going to get out. So we made these fire ant farms, and we took the carpenter ant fungus, and within 3 to 5 days, that fungus mummified red imported fire ants. And if you don't know what a problem is, who does not have red imported fire ants? Who doesn't have them? Send me your address. I'll mail you some. Yeah. It's terrible. $5 to $8 billion a year. Olga and I have done one dose at our house. We haven't had fire ants in 5 years, and we're also doing more field trials right now, and Clemson's helping out. So that's a good idea. This is what a fire ant should look like. And I mean, I love all creatures, big and small, but man, these things are really invasive. They're really dangerous, and they're causing it. And we're $5 to $8 billion a year to control this stuff, and it's not controlling it. That's what the chemical companies are making. This stuff is target specific and doesn't poison the water, doesn't hurt a bee, doesn't hurt a butterfly. You could eat it, right? There's a lot of this material going into our soil. So I got my fellowship from the EPA, and we're also looking at atrazine. I'll show that in a little bit. But look at these active ingredients, and that is just the active ingredient. And I know you've read the labels, and you've seen that those compounds are like 0.01%. This is what's going into our soil and into our water, right? There's the bees. Paul's done some work with the bees. The USDA did this study several years ago that there's a mycorrhizae here that's target specific against the varroa mite on bees. That is just spectacular. Where is this? Why aren't we using this now? All right, so there is a product out on the market. That one was called MET52. I think it reemerged. I'm not sure. But several years ago, Novozymes owned it, and then they sold it to Monsanto, and we haven't seen it around or available since. So we have a copy of MET52, and anyone who needs it or wants it can come by the Mushroom Mountain Farm and pick up a free copy. All right. I don't know if I should have said that out in the public, but you're right. Listen, and Olga and I, I've got strange needs. And, I got to have my fire ant farms, and then for Christmas, she's like, well, what do you want for Christmas? And I'm like, world peace, man. She's like, what can I get you? And I said, I'll go get it. So I ordered 100 virgin fruit flies. Merry Christmas. And that's all I wanted. 100 virgin fruit flies. They were $1.50 each. Yeah, and I opened up the vial and one escaped. I'm like, shit. There she goes. 100 virgin fruit flies, full of pheromones, right? Why would I do that? Well, then Olga calls me and she goes, Trad, there's something on the credit card statement. Can you explain it to me? And I'm like, what is it? She goes, well, all it says is live, 100 virgins, ... I was like, it was Christmas. No, so I took a fungus, I mummified these, and I weaponized the females to release into our fruiting room because a male can smell one of these females, the virgins that have not been mated, from like 50 feet away, and they all vectored to the virgin females. I learned that at Penn State. So I weaponized the females with a entomopathogen. And I'm lecturing at a university, and this young guy in the front row was just, as soon as I said 100 virgins, he woke up. Clemson. He goes, "What does that mean?" And I said, "Imagine going to the club, Tigertown Tavern, and all the girls have Ebola, but you don't know it." And he was like, "Whoa, that's not cool, man." I was like, "Right." These are late night ideas, You gotta weaponize the virgin females and set them free. But what can we do with this? This is important because over in Indonesia, this is another trip by Clemson University. They taught the indigenous people there how to make their own entomopathogens for grasshoppers and locusts that were invading their field. They do not have to use pesticides anymore. They're organic over there in these fields. They collect them, they grind them up with a little mortar and pestle, and they mix it with grain. Look at this on the hut. And they've got Mycorrhizae and Bavaria side by side that they're able to manufacture, and this is important, and share with other villages and communities, right, to put an end to the pesticides. So traditionally in culture, you can culture these out, but I also want to put some spotlight on what's going on now. This is the largest threat to agriculture in the U.S. right now. If you don't know what this is, make a note real quick on your phone or ask me later. This is the spotted lanternfly. It's a nasty one. Does anybody know what this one is? It's terrible. All right, so I was up showing these pictures, and I like showing pictures of mummified insects, but we all have problems where we are. And this one is, these are different nymph stages, different instars, and this is the adult here. Right now they're at about, I think they're somewhere in this stage, and then they're going to start mating in about a month and a half to 2 months. They eat everything. They came over on the princess tree of heaven, and now they're eating, they ate the wild grapes, and now they're attacking the vineyards, and they're just wiping them out. So it's in Burke County, Pennsylvania, and now it's already being spread to Maryland, Virginia, and it's on the move. It's a nasty one. All right, so I showed these pictures, and then a couple years ago, last fall, this woman calls me from Pennsylvania, and she goes, I saw your talk at the Mother Earth Fair, and you said if we spot anything funny, that here is a spotted lanternfly that's fully mummified. And she drove these down from Pennsylvania all the way down to South Carolina, all the way down. So we've got about 100 of these. We've got 100 of these. Look at these. That's the way they should look. Isn't that pretty wild? Right? And when you're identifying these, they come out of the hinges and, all over the body. They're just absolutely beautiful. I know. I know. It's a sickness, guys. So we are starting, since it's August and they're getting ready to mate, we have instructed her on how to do this. So this is how to make your own mycopesticide at home. So what we're doing is we're going to go back to Pennsylvania and put this online so the community can go out, locate, find a few specimens, and then amplify it and share it in their community. It's going to be too late. The chemicals are going to be way too late, and they're too destructive. Companies are charging $200 a tree to treat a tree, and that is a systemic pesticide that kills just about everything. All right, so we're going to teach how to take a bug with kitchen equipment and amplify it, and then be able to create a novel pesticide right here that's target-specific for the spotted lanternfly. All right, so we're going to go up there and release that in about a couple weeks. We need this narrow window of specificity. That's what we're going after. And I mean, there's an ethical question. Well, what about the other ants? What about this? What about that? What is the alternative? That whole aisle full of pesticides at Lowe's and Home Depot, right? Have you seen it? It's terrible. I just can't deal with it anymore. And I think that's like my life's mission here. I don't care how much money we make. Money is green shit on paper if you haven't figured that out. Listen, the more we make, the more we can get this stuff fixed. We need food, we need clean air, we need clean water, and we need peace on earth. Here's another glamour shot for you guys, right? Right? Why not? They're out there. But another thing I study too is just something if you don't do laboratory work, or you're in the audience and you have done some laboratory work, these are just some of those moments that mushrooms catch you off guard, and they're like, "What? Look at what I can do." You know, and they do this in the wild and they do this in the lab. And these were some plates that I threw away years ago. And I went off for a week for my EPA visit and came back, and I looked in the garbage and I saw this fungus surging over the top of this aspergillus. And man, I'll tell you, it was telling me a story. You got to pay attention to fungi. They're trying to teach us something, and this one was telling me that it was, getting out of its natural arc and attacking and going on the offensive. This is what happens out in the woods, right? This is biological warfare. This is a fungus against a fungus, right? So I looked in, zoomed in a little bit closer, and I see all these little droplets. Sometimes you don't see that in culture. Pure culture. The mycelium, fairly dry looking. It's has no competitors. It's eating out of a feed bag, pretty much. It's a zoo animal. But once you put a competitor on there, then you start to see all these metabolites start to show up. This is starting to carpet bomb the other fungus. So it's dialing up novel antifungal compounds here, and this was really exciting, super exciting. Here's one just totally bombing, getting out of its radius here and just going after this one over here. And you see all that. And that was a jack-o'-lantern mushroom. Does anybody know what a jack-o'-lantern is? Yeah? I get a lot of phone calls. People pick these in North Carolina, and they're like, "Man, I found the biggest chanterelle I've ever seen." But yeah, good luck with that one. But jack-o'-lantern, so when I started collecting mushrooms, oyster mushrooms, this and all the safe ones, now there's no mushroom or fungus off the board, right? Nothing. Every little fungus, mold, crust thing growing out of the dirt or on a log, every mushroom has a gift, and we just have to find out what it's good at, right? Jack-o'-lantern is awesome. I love it. Not only does it glow in the dark, but it's full of novel antifungal compounds too, right? And I remember when Tom Volk came and, it was an honor to have him come through the lab that year, and I had these jack-o'-lanterns fruiting out of bags, and he goes, "What are you doing? With poisonous fruiting mushrooms?" The reality is they're gifted, right? They create novel things. They line up, they produce these novel metabolites in the response, right, of a competitor. This was an example we did several years ago of atrazine. This was a remediation experiment. There's nothing else in this gel other than atrazine. And we did the labeled rate. Olga found this one. This was an oyster mushroom, a white oyster mushroom we found right outside of Clemson on a stump. And we put it on labeled rate, the atrazine. It ate it up. All right. It uses a carbon source. And then double the labeled rate, did just fine, and then triple the labeled rate, it just sat there. It grew out for 10 days and just sat there like that. And you know what's really cool? It grew out in the shape of a mushroom. It was weird, right? So it sat there for 10 days. The others, 2 to 3 days, it was fully colonized. So I put it back in the incubator, tried to reverse engineer what was the part per million? What is this thing eating? What is its limits? I came back 2 days later, and look at that. Just like that, right? Figured it out. I think mushrooms are intelligent. We have to understand that they are trying to survive, right? They're desperate. Mushrooms are defense mechanisms. They need to colonize, they need to mine their resources, and they need to absorb their nutrition, and that's what is going on. After the BP oil spill several years ago, all right? How many of you are like me, like watching the underwater ocean feed, right? Where the little silt, it was just bubbling up from the ground. Y'all remember that? And so I was sleeping on the couch and just kind of just nauseous and watching this thing, and Olga's like, we need to do something. We know mushrooms can help. But she created this most wanted poster, this Western style poster. It is the coolest. Anyone can help. Anyone. Any one of us in this audience can find a bug or find a mushroom doing something peculiar and turn it in. because we're going to win this. We're going to win this whole thing as a community if we turn it in, if we're on the look for some things. So we found some hits. We find mushrooms growing on dunes, salt-tolerant fungi. There's some green spore parasols that were active, but there's just mushrooms. How many of you have ever looked for mushrooms while at the beach? A few. Now, how many of you want to look for mushrooms at the beach? You should. Right? They're finding arcs and fairy rings right in the damn seaweed. I mean, they're out there. So a couple years ago, after I got over my 100 virgin fruit flies, it was my birthday. So Olga's like, well, what do you want for your birthday? And I was like, I'll get it. I got this one. And so I ordered salmonella and E. coli, strep throat cultures, pneumonial cultures, candida, pseudomonas, and staph. Happy birthday. I know. I mean, you don't know how excited I was when I see that box and there's a big biohazard sticker on it. I'm like, wow. This is a staph strain actually cultured off of my body. Did you know you could actually do that? You're covered with bacteria. We're like little coral reefs, you know? Got that out of a nasal cavity. You could also culture it right out of your belly button. I don't want to scare you guys, but do you know what's living inside of your belly button? Think about that. It's going to itch a little tonight. You're going to hear voices. Depends on how much you do, it depends. I'm just saying. Just trying to plant happy seeds out there for you guys. But we try to screen everything, so we created all these galleries. I did this when I was in the microbiology department. We created these behavioral galleries, like fungi and bacteria. I started using E. coli. We put these E. coli pellets here. That's a shiitake fungus. And we just screen everything. So what we're doing is actually making gladiator matches, right? This is what I do on a Friday night, guys. I do not have cable. So you have these inhibition zones. There's the E. coli swimming at about 2 days later at a rate, if you were to shrink yourself down, that's about 22 miles an hour. It was dividing that way. But the scary thing is that what we started to look at was drug-resistant bacteria, right? It takes 12 to 15 years for a company to develop a novel antibiotic, and it could take 2.5 years for a bacteria to figure it out, right? We're kind of in this state of, I would almost say desperation. We're running out of options. And more often now than not, someone could come into a hospital and the panel could read straight R's, which means resistant. And that's a scary situation to be in because the doctor wouldn't have anything for you, right? Flesh-eating bacteria, these Vibrio, there's also drug-resistant fungi out there. So, should we be concerned? Listen, man, I don't care who you voted for. That shit's funny. I mean, it looks funny. I mean, that's my way out. That's my way out of you being mad or getting stabbed. Let's do it again one more time. We need some corn smut on there. That's what we need. We need some. Let me tell you, corn smut's awesome, by the way. And if you've never, look up corn smut. But I'm going to tell you, if you Google corn smut, corn may not show up first because, man, that's only one letter off. I mean, it's one letter. just scroll down until you see corn. Or not. But it's really cool. And, these drug-resistant, these things are problematic, and they are on the rise. The more antibiotics that we're using, the more hand sanitizers we're using. I studied silver nanoparticle toxicity when I was at the EPA. It's in everything, right? It's a terrible. Look up silver nanoparticle toxicity. It's not regulated by the EPA, and it's in just about everything that's from an antibiotic Band-Aid to car wax and cosmetics to your keyboard, just about everything. So we have to solve this a different way. We need a different way of thinking, right? We kind of have to act outside the box here. So several years ago, about 3 years ago, I started taking these fungi, and I noticed those little droplets, that were working out their little differences with the fungus. And then I took my E. coli and my staph and things like that, and I, in sterile culture, injected. So we're kind of at the point where we can do throat cultures now, and we can inject them into the bags. We take that and inject it. So I would imagine this being the healing center, potentially, of the future, where we could go in, take a sample or a swab or a biopsy, inject it into these fungal biomass bags that are specially designed. These are old. The new ones don't spill. All right, so it's a new design. These are the ones that went over to Clemson. And in theory, we could, or hypothetically, we could take blood samples that would essentially, the fungus would figure out what the pathogen was and try to dial up a cocktail like a vending machine to produce a novel antifungal or antibacterial compound on demand. Imagine going into a hospital and 24 hours later coming back or walking out with a patient-specific and a pathogen or target-specific compound that is resistant against drug-resistant bacteria, right? So we've been working with these bags for several years. These are the controls here, and that's the E. coli trigger there, and we've been pulling it out. And it's very reliable. It's very consistent. It's also working on plant pathogens. Imagine going to a field and doing a biopsy on a cornfield or a cotton plant, and you've got a fungal blight. You put it in here, and you get 20 milliliters of a solution that's active 10 to the 6, so we can dilute this and make 528 gallons of a spray that could go on that field in 24 hours. That's pretty hot. That's hot shit, man. I mean, that's what fungi are doing, and that's what they're capable of. We just have to watch them, and we have to pay attention to what they're doing, all right? So we've been creating new prototypes. We've been playing around with the designs, and so far, this is a large bag. We've actually shrunk it down to the size of a test tube, so robots can do it, all right? You walk in, a little robot injects it. So we got shiitake and staph. Oh, my glasses on, I'm up to see this. Yep, shiitake and staph scored really high. You've got turkey tail and salmonella, won that one. And reishi mushroom killed strep throat. It really was really good. So we've actually mixing in reishi extracts in with organic honey, and we're hardening the candy, and right now we're trying to release these little lozenges that are for strep throat, and also trying to make streptopops, like little lollipops. You gonna cheer streptopops? All right. Okay. I didn't expect a cheer on that one, but it's awesome to watch this, how active these are in dilutions, and how things just kind of, when you wake up in the morning and you have all these doors open, it's just like that rabbit hole. It's like boom, 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 one after the other. That wasn't the cue for the song, by the way. So then we look at pancreatic cancer, and I've been getting calls about different fungi that are potentially active against pancreatic cancer. And this is survival rate by tumor site. You've got 2% down here for pancreatic cancer. But Dr. Solomon Wasser, several years ago, published some papers on the bird's nest fungi. So this is the one that I added to our beer this weekend. It's never been grown or put in any commercial product that I know of. So this was the first weekend that we had bird's nest beer on the planet. No, in the universe. Maybe they're drinking it somewhere else. I don't know, But how do you do that? I mean, do you know how long it took me to pick a half a pound of bird's nest fungi? I did it for you. I did it for you. My whole staff did it for an hour. We just picked little things out of our nature trail. So we decided maybe liquid culture is the better way to go. So we're growing it in liquid culture, and then we're actually growing different strains on different beans, just like tempeh works. So we're kind of creating this little meatloaf out of different fungi that are hard to grow or too small to cultivate, right? So I cultivate, watch this. Watch what happens to this in 1 week. Ready? Boom. That's pretty cool. Let's do that again, and let's be a little bit more energetic out there, all right? Ready? 1, 2, 3. I like it. I'm going to keep you. Bird's nest fungi and also turkey tail. We grow these on meatloaves, and then I was going to present this to like Whole Foods. I had a big meeting, but right before I went to present it, I'm like, you know what? I should probably taste it. So It's Thanksgiving. My mom was up. She came up and visited me up at the house, and it's Thanksgiving dinner, and I sliced it, and my mom was just like, son, I'm just so proud of you, you know. And I sliced it, I put it in the oil, and it was browning. I mean, it looked beautiful, and it just looked good. It smelled good. I put my arm around my mom. I'm like, Mom, I want you to have the first bite. She's like, thanks, son. I'm like, we're going to be rich, man. This is for the vegan, you know, everything. This is a game changer. Oh, my God, it tastes like shit. That's my mom. I said, no. And then I'm like, Olga, can you take it? And Olga's like, no way. And I took it, I was like, oh, man, we got some work to do. But let me tell you something. If you have pancreatic cancer, would you spit that out? I don't think you would. I think you deal with the taste, but we've made some changes here. But let me tell you, bird's nest fungi is interesting. Another cool thing you can do while you're at home. This is just some fun stuff before we move on to some serious stuff. How many of you have a cutting board out there? Wooden cutting board? Worried about pathogenic bacteria on your cutting board? Cutting chicken, you know? Sure, it's safe. You could take mushroom spawn and then soak your cutting board overnight in hot water, then smear some shiitake or turkey tail on there, and then you could peel it off, because you got ice scrapers. I don't use mine in South Carolina at all. I peel it off, and now we've made a fully functional, natural antibiotic cutting board that has an immune system, right? That was a 2-beer idea. And then I can explain this slide. I can explain. All right? This was a picture from Art's party last night, all right? And my mom saw this, and she goes, trad. And I was like, it doesn't work. So you can do fun things like this. I like collecting spores, and they're adhesive, so they're better to scrape off of a piece of glass or a mirror with a razor blade. But a couple years ago, we made this. This is fun. Maybe next year we can do this. We've been making spored ink, and we've been mixing spores in with our ink cartridges, and we were able to print living ink. So when maybe our programs next year, we all go home, and we're all missing each other, and we could take our programs and wet them and put them in the compost, and then it just erupts into mycelium, right? Self-destructive packaging, that's what you got. All right, so that is the typeface of that came. It's 100% spores that came out of that, right? So then we're looking at different organisms. You're looking at endophytes. I started looking at endophytes this year. We're looking at 150 different tomato varieties. There's a Clemson student who brought this in, and now do you know how many cuttings and punches we had to do this? We've basically been looking at different endophytes of different plants to see what they can do, beneficial and also detrimental to plant health. What we're looking for is endophytes actually live in the leaves, but they also are born in the seeds. So when you're planting a seed, you're not just planting a plant. You're planting an organism, a community of plant, fungus, and bacteria that the plant has carried forward. All right, so we're looking at different beneficial fungi that can be put in seeds. Also, maybe there's an entomopathogen that we can put in there, like in the squash plants, that if a squash bug comes, and maybe it mummifies that particular insect. All right, there's been patents filed by some big companies over this. But we're looking at different endophytes that grow in different plants, eliminating fungal pathogens. I added this late because I wanted you to see some cool stuff. How many of you want to see commercial cultivation of morels right now? No. Tom Volk, that's his life cycle there. If you don't know about this, they form sclerotia, resting structures. It's very complicated. Morels are very complicated. And I love hunting morels. They do have an ascus here. They're filled with ascospores lined up like this. You know what I'm saying? That joke was for me. I don't care if you laugh or not. Some of you don't get it. But I'm really fascinated. But I love hunting morels, especially in South Carolina. They can get big. They're awesome. These are some of our spots. Look at this one. This one's awesome. Yeah, one day a firefighter called me and said, listen, I found what I think are morels. I'm from Ohio, but there's 160 around this one tree. And then I've heard the craziest thing I've ever heard, ever. He said, can I show you where they are? And I'm like, is this Gary? Who is this? And I actually took the time to reprimand that dude on the phone and says, you don't do that. Yeah, we found actually 240 around that one tree. Just like that. You got to wear camouflage, too. They see you coming. I mean, morels are awesome. I've been studying the patterns. You know, all the morels are different, but in the southeast, I've been studying these ash morels. I've been tracking all the data. I'm like the groundhog for morels, you know. I give a lecture at Morel Madness every year, and we look at all these ground temperatures and what's involved. Look at the size of this one here. That's Olga with like a pair of scissors. They're huge. Let me see if this works.
2, 3. Oh, and the rest of them we're gonna leave them for next weekend because they're too little.
Oh wow,
Oh,
Heidi!
look at that. What about this?
She's a little morel stealer. Don't let her fool you. But I want to show you that what's really cool, and I first saw this up at Penn State, and they gave me some of these slides, but this is acreage under roof. Do you see this? This is 2 or 3 years ago. They now have 100,000 acres under roof. You comprehend that. Inoculating the beds with mycelium here that's nutrient poor. And then once it colonizes, it doesn't have enough energy to fruit. So what do? They put the bags here that are perforated full of grain and straw. The mushroom mycelium goes up into this penthouse, mines all the nutrients, and forces it back down into the soil, so you get morels fruiting like this in almost like rows of corn. Should I pass around the drool cup? I mean, what's going on? Everybody's like, oh, this is the mushroom porn section of the show. All right? Just relax. I mean, it's awesome, isn't it? Anyway. So that's how they form. Is we figured out with Tom and I, we just sped it up. We did these experiments. We put morel mycelium on nutrient poor and poor substrates, and then we figured out if we put them in bags. So we're really trying to figure out how to do them indoors better. I know they've done it before, but we just got some more insight after we've been experimenting with it. Those are morel sclerotia there, and they taste just like morels, right? You can just eat them. Anyway. That's the morel thing. Look at that. It's just... All right, so this doesn't need to be on like that. Something else I wanted to talk to you about education. This is something I've been working on that I wanted to release and show you all. I've never showed anybody these. They're up here, but these are mushroom decoder wheels, and I want to release them this year. And I've got them up here if you want to look at them afterwards, but essentially they're coded so you can decode the mushrooms. And they will work anywhere in the world because these actually go right to the page of any field guide that's ever been published. All right? So this one is for boletes. You can see, we're going to get these into schools. This is our mission statement because we're not looking to make money on this. I think we need to publish them, maybe a downloadable form or by donation, and get these into schools so people can learn how to identify mushrooms. This is an easy way to learn how to ID mushrooms. This is a new one I just did. This is on my balcony over there in Telluride. Look at this is an Amanita wheel. Look at the spinning clear one with the little patches and stuff like that. Yeah, that's pretty wild. And then what I'd like to do is if we distribute enough of these around and make it public domain, then if these wheels can also get onto a database, you can see that we're scrolling down there. And all those features line up and make a code. And then you can see on the right there, it actually, all you have to do is take your wheel to whatever country or region that you're in, and then just go through your local field guide and punch it in, and it'll show you exactly what page of that field guide it's on. Yeah, man. It's my Jamaican. Yeah, man. And there it is, right to the page. And they're fairly accurate, but I could use some help. I'm not a taxonomist, so I'd like to share those with you. Also, at Mushroom Mountain, this is something new. We just opened up our mushroom trail, and I would also ask if you're farming or going back to different regions or different countries, open up a mushroom trail, spawn it, and this is our little trail here. And Olga and her sister have been working really hard on these. These are signs. There's 35 of them throughout and around Mushroom Mountain. You go and you scan it, and then a whole bunch of information pops up about that mushroom, that whole group. Now, traveling abroad. All right, let's travel abroad a little bit. All right, so I like to go to Haiti, Jamaica. This is where we found some oyster mushrooms here over in Haiti. And I will tell you that Haiti was a mycophobic society, extremely mycophobic. Has anybody ever been to Haiti? Anyone? For vacation? No one? Well, we picked these oyster mushrooms here off of this mango tree, and I took them to the chef at the Partners of Health hospital. And 5 women said, no, do not eat that. They gave me this, international sign language like this. And so this director here said, no, Trad, so he knows they're oyster mushrooms, just cook them up. So they cook them up, and they bring them out. And then they're like 5 women standing in the kitchen like this with their heads stacked. And they're watching me eat that thing. And I saw them like from the corner, from around the corner. I just saw them. I started eating it like... And they just freaked out and ran out, and I started laughing. They were like, they said something in Croatian, Creole that probably wasn't good. And I said, you got to try these. They're good. They said, no. And the head chef tried them, and she goes, these are amazing. It's a marketing problem. There's mycophobic societies here. The kids on the street that were following me around, they learned how to grow mushrooms on cardboard. This kid on the left, this little kid, he made me a little bracelet that said John. That's my name in Haiti, because they couldn't pronounce trad that well. They were like, trad, what is that? And I was like, what's the name for mushroom? Like John. I think, all right, you're John here. That kid right there came up to me and said, I want to learn how to grow mushrooms so I can go to school to be a doctor, so I can come back and help feed our family and our village. What other reward? I mean, something like that. I mean, what a gift to teach these kids. And you get that kind of love back. Incredible. You can grow mushrooms just about anywhere, on just about anything. But, lately, for the past 2 years, I've been going down to Jamaica. And we've been focused mostly on the east side. And I'll tell you a little bit about this hell ride that Larry Evans took us over these mountains. Larry, are you in here? No? I like that. I mean, I must have been crazy putting a rental car in my name and just giving the keys to Larry, like, you got this, right? You got this? Oh, I'm sorry, these are some vacation photos. There was some serious research being done down here. Oh. Eventually, I met the Minister of Agriculture. You know what I mean? This was a good thing, and he gave a speech and said, this is what Jamaica needs, the mushrooms on the island for the women. We need this industry here. While I was giving one of my lectures on medicinal mushrooms, I just brushed over magic mushrooms really quickly, because I generally don't talk about it in the Southeast too much of the U.S. And they're like, could we talk about this a little bit more? And I'm like, really? So we started talking about magic mushrooms, and I said, well, you can't grow them here. And they said, there's no law against that. And I'm like, you're kidding me. I said, you're for real? So I figured it out, and we got attorney letters from the state, the government of Jamaica, to grow psilocybin in Jamaica. And let me tell you, it is beautiful. I showed up with this blue hair. I got off the plane with the blue hair and a fractaled out tie-dye thing. And the minister people picked me up, and they just hung their head. They were like, oh my God. They're like, can you be any more psychedelic? Yes, I can. I know. You can give a shout out for cubensis. Woo! How many of you are dosing right now? Just give out a little. One of my favorites too is Gymnopolis. Anybody ever tried this, Gymnopolis? Yeah. I've tried it once, and I changed my outgoing message on my answer machine. It's quite a night. My friend, I was applying for jobs. He was like, dude, change that outgoing message. It's crazy. You know, a lot of speakers have been covering this that are way more knowledgeable than I, so I'm just going to brush over this. But we do know about the default mode network, and we're looking at really treating people. And if you've never done mushrooms right now, how many people have never tried hallucinogenic fungi? Raise your hand. All right. Hold on. All right, hold on. Raise your hand again one more time. I just want to let you know that below your chair, listen, man, how can this be illegal? Schedule 1, no therapeutic value, high probability of addiction. How many people are walking around tripping and addicted to fungi, like mushrooms like that? Well, that's not a good group to ask, actually. I take it back. Dizziness, maybe a little laughter. What's wrong with laughter? Should that be against the law? Yes? Depends. If the jokes are bad, yes. Abdominal pain from the laughter. You know it, and you know what I'm talking about. You're at a funeral. Or church service would be good. Listen, man, destroying angel, psilocybe cubensis growing right next to each other. I took that picture in my parents' backyard in Florida. The good news is, no matter which one you eat, you're guaranteed to see a light. But you would definitely come back from this one with more information. Our president just tweeted out something. I don't know what's going on. Did you see this? Something's not right. Paintings. It was sad. I could have changed the date. I recycled that shit. I don't know what's going on over there. But I think it's a good thing. I think mushrooms, especially psychedelics, should be mandatory. I saw someone carrying up a sign downtown that said dose. Never mind. All right, so here's our pictures from Jamaica. We're going to end with this. So this is just awesome. There's Olga and I went down in the spring. We got these little mono tubs here. We're growing them on coconut core fiber. Look at these beautiful fruiting bodies. And I mean, what we're doing, if I did this in South Carolina, I would get more jail time than robbing a bank. That's the truth. That is the truth. Travesty. There's Larry. Right? We had a good time over there. Those things were huge. There's Owen, our lab partner, in there. He just bought a Marley shirt to fit in. You got to be accepted by the locals, you know what I mean? But this is right when we got there. We came down, and then here's Larry driving. We got the blue portal car, Heidi and Olga in the back, and we just went on this just tear across the country. Just so much fun. We actually went looking for magic mushrooms, right? We want native strains there. So we hired this kid here. So we went out in this field. We found a couple of pancyans out here. We managed to get those into culture. It's just an interesting experience. To have the freedom down there to do this. Look at this, how dark and deep blue these are bruising, and they're, somebody getting ready to clap or something? I mean, this is beauty. This is architecture. It's gorgeous. It's well respected, and that's how we do it. All fruiting bodies, even patients that were there, some from the U.S. that had Lyme disease, anxiety, depression. There's Larry with this rare blue jade orchid. That doesn't even look real. And we're out hunting mushrooms. There's really no one studying mushrooms in Jamaica at all. I think we need to do a foray down there and bring mycologists and do, I know Larry and I are trying to organize a mushroom foray, and if we have a lab down there, we can test and look at some of the mushrooms down there. So it's really, I'm telling you, it's really, but we've been hearing these speakers, it's about the whole pharmaceutical gig, with anxiety and depression. Psilocybin and mushrooms are one of the answers here. It might not be for everyone, but the number one selling drug in the United States, or class of drug, is antidepressants. It's that bad in the U.S. that we have to take these pills. Postpartum depression drug was approved this year, $30,000 for that treatment, right? Nicotine addiction, alcoholism, PTSD, all these different things. And when you look at the base of a lot of conditions, you're looking at anxiety and depression, and mushrooms can help with that. And microdosing, epic, heroic doses, maybe once or twice with a guide who can talk to you about your intention and what you want to get out of that experience. And then there's also reintegration, right? It's like coming back from outer space, So I'm really happy that we're able to, have a place that we can do something like that. So we've been setting up the Blue Portal in Jamaica, and we're also looking at northern Jamaica and Costa Rica next. I really want psilocybin to be legal everywhere in the United States, especially decriminalized, because that's just stupid as shit that it is. It's just dumb, absolutely dumb. We should feel free to take these, anything that's non-addictive, actually a little bit repulsive. I haven't taken shrooms or mushrooms in about 4 or 5 years. But when you take this journey, you're able to soar and swim. Some of you are seeing this right now going, holy shit. This is what I've been waiting for. But it's the visualization that you get when you go in there and can perform your own psychedelic surgery. We know what our problems are. We go in there, not many of us are programmers, but when you start to connect with the universe and you feel as one, and all of us here as a community, and you're soaring through the universe, and then you start to see that code inside your brain, and then you start to see code that's not right, code that you don't like, right? You start to see maybe a physical impairment or physical ailment. You go back in very quickly, and you might be able to repair that, patch in that code, and fix yourself. Right? That's how these drugs potentially work. You wake up, you have these moments of flight and wandering. When I've done mushrooms, I ate a whole shoebox full of cubensis. And it wasn't kicking in fast enough, so my best friend said, hey, what's that over there? And I'm like, oh, that's my San Pedro plant. He goes, let's eat it. I've been way down the hole, I'm telling you. I'll tell you in a minute. I'll tell you a story, right? I'm just saying that in a place where you can go and do some healing, right, to get out of the country. It's just a beautiful, beautiful space. We got to wander Jamaica and travel around, but also reintegration, and just sets up your intention, It's a sacrament. Do it for a reason, right? You ask yourself, what can become of this? When I came back from Jamaica, I got a CAT scan. This is my actual CAT scan. And the doctor, if it was a doctor in Telluride, he would just be like, that's perfectly normal. But if I was in South Carolina, they'd be like, we need to get those out of there. It's going to hurt, boy. I'm just saying that when I was a little boy, and I felt like touring the tombs of Egypt and in the tombs and climbing pyramids, and to hear there's a language, right? There's a Rosetta Stone that we need to understand the language of fungi. They're trying to tell us, they're trying to give us answers. They've been around here for a long, long time, and if we don't pay attention to them, we're in trouble. We need new antibiotics. We need to repair ourselves as a community, And listen, when I start growing things like this and I cut out shapes, I do this with intention too. I love you guys. And listen, money can't buy love, but damn it, I can grow it. And I like to watch it grow. And I like seeing this festival grow. And listen, psilocybin, what is wrong with unconditional love? Why is that outlawed, right? It's okay to hug a chicken. Heidi gets it. These are our new mycowarriors, everybody here, all of us. And I need you to go back home, and I need you to infect more people. You need to go militant. You need to go militant mycology. You need to jump fences, start bombing locations with spawn. I need you to go ape shit crazy when you go home. All right? All right. You're like, Trad, there's law enforcement outside. I mean, imagine. I mean, why wouldn't they let me through TSA with a bunny mask on and spawn, like, taped to my body? Compassion. Our children are watching us, right? We need leaders who are compassionate, and we need to get rid of this racism bullshit. We need to grow back together, and we need to fix this place. You know what I'm saying? We need tree huggers. There's nothing wrong with hugging a tree, right? It's mandatory. I was about to say we needed role models when, and I mean, what are you doing? I think he was giving birth to the mushroom statue. Shit. We need responsible leaders. Hey. And Larry too, I'm just joking around. Man, if art was on the 2020 ticket, who would vote for art right now? I would. I know you probably wouldn't take it. I say art 2020, man. And the first thing we'll do is just tie-dye that, we'll fractal out the White House, rip up the sod, and just plant psilocybin in the mulch everywhere. And we'll have a drive-through for people to take it. But if we can grow love, we can have peace. And listen, this is the paradigm. You could feel it. I think you can feel it in this room, but it's our responsibility to take this knowledge and to do something with it. All right? We have to change this place. All right? We have to be activists. You got to go back and you have to vote. You got to do this stuff. We have peace and love. We're going to have happiness together. All right, guys. I'm also writing a new book. It's going to be out in a year and a half. That's the manuscript. So that's going to be Mycotopia. All right? That's it. Thank you, guys. Let's all celebrate tonight. Let's celebrate. All right? Let's celebrate each other, celebrate mushrooms. And if anybody wants to come up and dance with me right now, let's go.
And the ones that mother gives you